sound really does bounce. So if you're talking against a flat surface like a wall, if you're facing a wall and you speak, the sound bounces back to you. So
don't worry about throwing a complete blanket over your head and recording your audio. Don't worry about being in a closet and looking silly.
One of the many reasons, but one of the most important reasons why people stop watching video is that the audio isn't good. Hey everybody, Matt Pierce, Learning and Video Ambassador. Welcome to have you here in the Visual Lounge. I'm here with Andy and Justin. We've got another great conversation today. We're going to be talking about how to get good audio. In particular, you don't have to go out and buy a new mic, but there are some things that you can do to get just better audio with what you've already got. Because, you know, it's better than spending a lot of money on something when you're already going to have to do some of this work anyway, I think. So, gentlemen, welcome to the Visual Lounge again. We're so glad you're here. Let's talk about audio, because this is like the number one thing I think that people need to get right is their audio. There's so many things we can improve on and tweak on, but if your audio's bad, no one's going to want to watch your video.
Yeah, 100% agreed. People always ask me what the one thing they need is for a good video, and bar none, it's always good audio, because people will put up with this blurry video that I'm probably giving you right now, and people will put up with, slightly lower quality lighting. But man, if it's distorted audio, if it's delayed from the, sync with video, if it, any one of the things that messes up audio, if that happens, people are going to click away.
Yeah.
I was going to...
Oh, go ahead, Justin. Talking over each other already. That's the episode. Thank you, everybody.
That's good audio. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same. Like, especially even as a viewer, you think of the things that you watch or listen to. You don't have to have the best audio. It doesn't have to sound like NPR, which I think that's definitely a level of quality that is excellent, but it doesn't have to go that high. But it also can't sound like you're recording like inside a trash can, like, the super tinny underneath the water, like can't quite, like I was just on a meeting, even in meetings, right? Like I was just on a meeting and called with somebody 2 days ago, and it's just so distracting. So I think focusing on audio is superbly important.
Well, I was even thinking today, one of the things that came up, I keep hearing this term, Zoom fatigue, right? And it got me thinking that there is no real Zoom fatigue. It's all these other pieces that go into these meetings, into your videos, that make it hard to watch. And audio is one of those things that, you're struggling if someone's audio is lagging and they, like that, it makes it really difficult. But let's talk about how to get this better, because I think there's some fundamental things, some really basic things that everyone could do just to improve the quality a little bit. And that little bit can really make a big difference. So where should we start? What are some of the advice that you two would give?
For me, I think it starts with microphone position. And so there's a variety of microphones that we don't need to cover. Like, what do you have? What's your microphone currently? Is it your laptop? Okay. Is it, do you have a desktop microphone? We've got microphones in front of us that we're using. That's fine. If you've got AirPods, that's your microphone. Okay. The question is, where is that microphone located? Especially with regard to where you are. If you're using your laptop's onboard microphone, I hope you're not. That is an option though. But if your laptop's 3 feet away from you because you've got, a wireless keyboard, that's too far, because now you're picking up more room tone. It's struggling to hear you. So it's like increasing the ambient noise too. So as much as like it's catching your voice, now it's got a real loud like room tone that is just going to sound like a mess. You may sound echoey as it tries to pull that volume up louder naturally too, because a lot of these programs like Zoom and whatever we're using for video meetings are going to automatically work in the background to try and quote unquote fix your audio. So you want to do everything you can to fix that first. So with microphones, I think Matt, you and I know, like, we want to keep it probably about 6 to 8 inches, from your chin to the microphone. So if it's a desktop microphone, you shouldn't be far from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I've got my microphone, because of the type it is, it's actually above me, so it's off screen, but you can just tell as I get closer, it sounds differently than if I step back, this is going to sound very different. So yeah, I love that advice. Just, your distance to the microphone should be proportional, like, to the type of microphone that you have. And even with AirPods or something like that, like, the problem is you still got that distance, and the microphone is here, but where you're pointing, where you're speaking is out here.
Right.
And so that's actually a problem for a lot of microphones too, is you're not talking into the right piece of it. So great advice. Justin, any thoughts that you've had about, because I know you've been working on improving your own audio.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I have this microphone right here, which is tougher to see in this particular angle, but I have an external mic. But even if let's say I was using this, right, for my microphone, that would be the one thing I would say. And I know, Andy, we want to be able to let people use the microphones they have, but even the free headphone mic that comes in your, with your iPhone is going to be so much better than just trying to shoot across your laptop, especially if you're trying to record your face and your audio at the same time, right? I can fake it if I'm not worried about showing my face at all. I can kind of get close and I can, maybe do some other things to make that up. But yeah, position even of this is super important though, because I was just, again, on a call the other day, and the entire time it was rubbing against somebody's jacket. And so you just heard the swish, 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 which is like, now I can't even pay attention to what they're saying. And if you were making a video,
swish, 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 swish.
And if you were making a video, right, like, and you got, maybe you recorded it and you were fine, but then you started moving all throughout your video and you didn't know you were going to pick that up. And then at the end you go back and, oh shoot. So, just thinking through that.
The swish swish reminds me of my wedding days too. I like to put a microphone on the groom's lapel during the wedding ceremony so that we can catch the vows and everything being set up there. But if I got to the groom before whoever was pinning on the boutonniere, oftentimes they would try and cover the mic to hide it, which they think they're doing a favor, but of course then it's going to rub, and now I've got audio noise. So I always would wait until after the boutonniere was placed before I would pin the mic.
Yeah, this makes total sense, and I just think, like what you said, Justin, the headset mic is way better than your desktop, like your built-in microphone. The other thing I think that's important here to consider is the environment that you're in. Like, you can have a great microphone, and it does not matter if the environment you're recording in is not ideal for recording, right? Like, if you've ever been in an echoey space and you've tried to record, it doesn't matter what kind of mic you have, it's probably not going to do a good job. And so your space, I think the environment you're in has a big play here. Now, I want to put a caveat out there. I get, like, we're all in tough circumstances. We can't have sound booths. More than likely, I mean, if you do, awesome, way to go. But like, I'm in an office, like, Justin, you're in a basement. Andy, you're in a basement. I've been in a basement, and it's just, you've got to work with what you've got. But there are things I think you can do to make that better, and just a little bit goes a long way at improving and helping your microphone, because your microphone is way more sensitive than your ears, and there's all sorts of ambient noises already around you that you probably aren't paying attention to, that you've learned to tune out. You've put on your own noise cancellation filter in your brain, but yet your microphone doesn't care. It's like, oh, there's a noise, there's a signal. That's a signal. That plow outside, that's a signal. Like, beeping from the construction down the road, that's a signal. I don't care. I'll pick it up. That's my job.
Oh yeah, and like, for me, it's interesting because I'm in my basement. My furnace is literally right behind me. Every time that kicks on, I hear it. I got pipes above me. Anytime my kids run the faucet, I can hear the water drain out there. So I've got noises coming all the time. As far as noises around me and stuff my mic wants to pick up. So for me, it's trying to figure out, if I'm shooting a video, I have to be very conscious of like time. So typically, like, if I try to record something, I'll get up early and try to, record the video either early in the day or late at night before my house has started, interacting with my kids and my wife and everybody else, the dogs, the cats, all that stuff kind of running around. As far as that environment setup goes, I'll throw this out to you guys though. One video I made, the best compliment I ever got on a video I made was for the audio. I didn't have to show my face. So what I did was, in my basement, I threw a giant blanket over this entire setup and I recorded the audio, and it sounded beautiful. So I just wanted to, and then the other thing is, I've heard like the whole idea of recording in a closet. So I don't know if you guys have either tried either of those things. But I'd love to get your take on that.
I really like the walk-in closet technique. The thing people forget about, I mean, walk-in closets obviously are easier than if you just have like a single door panel closet. That's going to be a little more tight of a space. But if you have a little bit of space, but still, I would actually face the clothes, because then you're not going to get that horrible reverb off of a blank wall, right? So the clothes are going to absorb the sound and not bounce it back into the microphone. So closets are really great spaces to record, especially as people work from home. I think it's a great solution if you need to record video, or excuse me, audio separate from your video.
Well, I think even
Yeah.
I think even anything you can do to put that soft in your room, like if you have books, right? Like put up books in, like, or you got like. I found that it's interesting when I moved into my new space here. I've got a ceiling that is like drywall plaster. When I was in the basement in my old place, I had a drop ceiling that is more of like the kind of the foam type material.
Right.
And that actually was better than this space, because now I've got like all these hard spots around that the sound can just bounce and reverberate. Now I've got a microphone that's pretty directional, so it's not picking up a lot of that. But man, does it make a difference to have carpet, or if you can put anything soft on your wall. That's why the blankets work. That's why the clothes work. And, I think just being mindful about those types of things, of trying to find also a space that's not too big. Like, I think that's another, people want big spaces because they need, they want the room, but I think it's way harder to control that sound. Just find something that's going to be, temporary. Bring in a rack of clothes, like if you don't have a walk-in closet, you got one of those wheeled racks. Bring anything you can do to absorb some of that sound is a good thing.
Well, and another thing too, people forget when we talk about bouncing sound, people forget about it, but sound really does bounce. So if you're talking against a flat surface like a wall, if you're facing a wall and you speak, the sound bounces back to you. So if those are your only options and that's what you have to use, aim yourself into the corner. It's less likely to bounce directly back into the microphone if it's not a flat wall bouncing it straight back at you. But if you can put yourself into that corner, it's not going to bounce directly back into the microphone. It's also not going to be as good as being in a walk-in closet or having a blanket over your microphone, but it's one solution that can cut down on some of that kind of audio bounce back.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked a little bit about microphone placement. We've talked about, treating the environment, which I think is probably one of the biggest things that you can do to control sound. But let's talk about just other qualities of things to help your voice sound a little bit better. And this one I know we were laughing about earlier, but I think just taking care of your voice is going to make your audio sound better. And there's lots of ways to do that, but I think the easiest way to take care of your voice is to hydrate, right? Or as my daughter would say, hydrate or dihydrate. I don't necessarily get it, but...
I like that. Well, and it's true that you need to hydrate. You also can't just this isn't cramming for a test. You can't just hydrate right before you go onto the video, right? Like this is something you should be doing anyway, just good practice. But if you've got a video recorder, you're going to be on a podcast or something, have a drink the day before, a drink of water, have a drink of water the night before, have a drink of water that morning. Like just kind of keep your vocal cords taken care of. And actually, I think we've had this conversation about different temperature water, right? Like ice cold water is going to constrict your vocal cords a little more than warmer water. So if you like tea, go for it. People are going to think I'm heretical by suggesting coffee. I don't think coffee is a good solution for you, but it's better than not having anything. I think the main suggestion would be don't be screaming at your kids 5 minutes before you're going to go onto camera too. So, is that a weird one? No, I mean we're all working from home at the moment, so I think just don't spend any time. You don't want to hurt your vocal cords.
Well, you wouldn't go to a rock concert the night before you had a big voiceover job either, right? Like you got to record a big video.
It's just taking care of your voice and yelling or screaming. I mean, hopefully most people aren't doing that anyway, but yeah, soothing. I'm a loud talker, so I'm almost always destroying my vocal cords just when I speak at a normal volume. Trying to kind of keep that tone down.
I even think though, beyond I took the yelling at the kids from a completely different angle, which is like the attitude to which you're coming to. If you're going to do a voiceover, for instance, right? Like part of the downside, I said, I try to record in the morning and I'm like, every time I try to do that, I'm still waking up. I could hear it in my voice, right? I'm still tired. I'm not quite there yet. I'm barely had my first cup of coffee. So I think that's why even when we were trying to plan this episode, right? Like when we were going to record this, I was like, oh, let's do the afternoon. Because if we try to do it in the morning, I'm not quite there yet. And so I think the prep before you record of like kind of, I mean, amping yourself up seems weird, but like, potentially amping yourself up, right? Like being excited about what you're going to talk about. I don't know if you guys had thoughts on that.
Well, I think one thing I was thinking about, and I think there's probably two things here. One is like going in cold. It's like a singer, right? Like a singer doesn't just go out and sing. They have to warm up. You do want to loosen up your vocal cords. That's just good practice. It's going to make you sound better. It's going to give you a chance to loosen up and be able to enunciate better. That's my fingers for enunciating and loosening up. But I think the other thing that you're saying, Justin, is really important too, is that when you come to, especially on camera stuff, right? Like, I there used to be the adage that the camera adds 10 pounds, and I don't know that that's really anything anymore. But what I do know that it does, for me at least, I feel this, is that like, if I'm just me, I'm just plain old normal Matt, it's a lot less energetic and it's just kind of flat. But so like you have to bring that energy because the microphone doesn't understand that, the camera doesn't understand that. It's just capturing what is, and to really connect with your viewer or your listener, I think you really just kind of need to step it up a notch or two. If you're really low key, you might need to step it up more, but like, yeah, have that enthusiasm, be excited, and almost, you don't want to overdo it because no one likes the fake radio voice, that you hear. But like, I think you got to come at it at a little bit over where you would normally be.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, bringing the energy.
Is it Andy? I'd say, are you the one who told me to like smile when you're recording? I feel like that's a thing, right? Like smile when you're, even if I'm not on the screen, if I'm reading something and I'm smiling about it, I'll just naturally maybe have an uptone or something.
No, that's exactly true. I mean, there's a difference. If I read something without smiling, my voice is going to sound fine. It sounds, I can still sound professional. But if I read it while I'm smiling, even if I'm not smiling because of anything that's happening around me, but I'm just forcing the muscles in my mouth to do it, it sounds different. And you kind of start feeling it too. And so you kind of feel a little ridiculous. And then you're like, okay, this is something I'm bringing intentionally, but is sounding a little fun. So yeah, I think smiling while recording, it's something I picked up, in school during radio classes, but it's true. It sounds different, and you can hear in people's voices when they're just kind of talking like this.
I was going to say, even for my own, like I can tell when I record something, you feel ridiculous. If you're smiling and you're recording, like you might feel, and maybe you end up toning it back or whatever after you listen to it, but like, it's probably better to sway on that side than okay, today I'm going to teach you how to do blah,
I got some bad advice. I got some bad advice when I was in college because we were in video and we were talking about video programs and how the camera gets really close. And so you've got to tone it back and you need to calm down was the advice I was getting, because people were used to, people who were on camera were used to being in theater at this point, right? If you were an actor, for example, well, in the theater, you've got to enunciate to the back row and you've got to,
project.
I'm losing the word. Project. Thank you. Project to the back row and perform for the people in the back. But on camera, right, it's getting right up in your face and you don't need to do that. And that's true if you're acting. We're not acting. We're having a conversation and we're trying to engage people on a topic that we're passionate about. So we either bring that energy or they're not going to feel it.
Well, I think there's a difference between the projection, getting louder, and I'm going to call it, and I don't know if this is the right term for it, so I'm making it up, but like talking through the microphone you're talking to the person on the other side, right? And that's the difference of, I'm just going to get loud and I'm going to project and cast versus I'm going to talk through this device and medium and reach my audience, because there's so much that can be felt in that and heard in that, you think about your message. If your message is really important, you don't want it to hit that camera and bounce back and fall flat, right? Like if it's a marketing message or if it's a training message, I think there's something really to be said about like you got to get through the microphone and the lens to be able to really impact that person. And that doesn't mean you have to be crazy. It doesn't mean you have to be loud. It doesn't. I think it just means that you're convincingly talking about your subject with excitement, with energy, with passion, and then you're bringing it through, so it's going to connect with them and helping them to be able to hear that clearly and well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know that this is so much about audio, but as far as like passion and conversation, I think we've talked about this off camera a little bit, where these conversations have been great because the three of us can talk and we can chat about these topics. And when it's an interview and you feel like you just have to answer the questions by yourself, you get a little more conscientious and nervous and afraid that you're gonna mess things up if it's just you. So it's easier when it's a conversation, I think, and it's easier to be passionate about something like that.
Well, let's do this, guys. I think we've kind of. I think Andy, you might have a knock at the door, but let's wrap up. I think we've had a really great conversation. Hopefully, this has been helpful. But let's get your quick final take, Andy. We'll start with you so you can go answer things.
Thanks. Yeah, I think microphone placement is going to be crucial for good audio, but I also think you are going to bring the good audio in your personality. That's not what I want to say. You are going to bring the energy and let the microphone bring the good audio. But where it's placed, this is killing me with the knock. Where it's placed is going to matter. You know what? Maybe Justin should go first.
We'll figure this out.
Oh my goodness, this is amazing. Yeah, I think so. For me, I think if you're focused on good audio and you don't have to worry about your camera, then you don't have to worry about looking silly. And so what I mean by that is don't worry about throwing a complete blanket over your head and recording your audio. Don't worry about being in a closet and looking silly. Don't worry about, I don't know, taping a bunch of foam above you or whatever you have to do. If it doesn't affect how you're looking, and you're really just interested in getting really good sound, then don't worry about how you look.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my final take is that there are a million things you can do, and it doesn't matter about what the million things are. As long as you take a few steps to get better audio in your environment, you're going to be better off than if you don't try anything. And I love what you said, Justin, that if you're not on camera, don't worry about looking silly, because really it doesn't matter. And even on camera, it is probably worth looking a little silly or doing some things that will affect maybe the visual look, but gives you better sound, because it is so critical. We know it is one of the many reasons, but one of the most important reasons why people stop watching video is that the audio isn't good. So, if it means that your background looks a little funky or, is not great, sacrifice that first for good audio, and then just take care of yourself. I think that's just kind of nature's thing, that if you don't take care of yourself, it's an instrument, it's a tool. How can you expect it to perform well when you need it? And the last thing I'll say, I've said a lot, but the last thing I'll say is that we don't expect professional voiceover quality. We don't expect you to do movie quality, but be you. People want to hear you. You're the expert. They want your voice. Your voice is absolutely good enough the way it is. All right. With that, let's, one thing I do want to point out is we actually have a course in the TechSmith Academy that is all about recording audio in your environment. You can go check that out at academy.techsmith.com. Hit us up, subscribe, give us a rating, review, share this podcast with your friends, because that just helps spread the word and helps other people that you might know that need to get better audio or get better on video, whatever it might be. So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you guys next time in the Visual Lounge.